Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben. It's episode 299, and I'm here with Lucy.
We're almost there, Ben.
I know, it's getting close. I think we've decided that for episode 300, Adil's going to join us from Canada.
We're allowing him back for one episode only.
Party. That's it. Yeah. He's you know, maybe he's not even coming back. Maybe he's just coming back for that episode. He's going to stay in Canada forever. Who knows?
Wouldn't blame him.
Let's open some beers up. We're going to have a little bit of a shorter show tonight because it's the two of us, and I think we've just had busy weeks, and we haven't managed to play very much. And obviously nothing has happened in the world of video games to discuss in any way at all either. So Lucy, what are you going to be opening up first?
I had illustrious friend Callum in mind when I was buying some beers the last time, and keeping hold of my promise to try more Boundary beers, I bought a beer from Boundary.
Nice.
And this is called more of a Phenomenon. It's an IPA. 6%. And it says an IPA dry hopped with 16 grams per litre of Nelson Sauvin and Citra. Contains barley, wheat, oats, and that's it. Yeah, 6% IPA.
Nice.
So we'll see. I always say that Boundary beers have this, I don't know, like this slightly grainy kind of taste to them sometimes that I feel. It's just like,
I don't know whether it's just the way that the visceral can art works on the front, where they've got their very grungy images on the front, and you taste it and you're like, this is like the image on the can.
Maybe it's psychosomatic.
How have they managed to just burn that into my mind before I've drunk it?
Maybe it's like the yeast they use or something, their house yeast. That's
I know exactly what you mean. With those with Boundary. For me, I've got a bit of a big boy. I've got a beer from our friends at Vault City. A double maple triple chocolate blueberry s'more at 10%.
There's a lot of words.
It is a lot of words.
A lot of good words, but a lot of words.
Vault City do put on a lot of a little bit of flavour text on the back. So obviously it's a sour beer, but it says light a campfire and wrap up warm. This is one to enjoy in the fleeting sunlight. Very fleeting right now.
It's very sunny today for me. Very sunny, like all day.
It was. I even had to wear a cap in the car when I was driving around because it was just sun was like
low
right
sun,
in my face. Fresh and vibrant Scottish blueberries cut through decadent layers of rich marshmallow, maple, and chocolate. I've had this sat in the fridge for not a huge amount of time, a couple of weeks maybe. Looking for the right time to drink it, and I thought, well, if we're doing something a bit shorter, maybe it's time to bust it out. Ooh, wow!
Smell.
I mean, just even when I cracked the cap, just that little bit, it was just like, just absolutely hit. What was it? It's almost this like hazelnutty kind of instant sort of flavour. I'll explore that in a moment. We'll come back to you for the Boundary, Lucy.
Yeah, same. Like as soon as I crack that can, the smell, just lovely. You're getting that citra, like the tropical fruity notes on it, and just smells gorgeous. I've just been going back, just sticking my nose in it because, that smells so good, so fresh. But it's not. I don't know if it's because my glass is cold. Well, the beer's cold and condensation, but it's quite clear. Not all the way transparent, but pretty close. Really nice. I guess it's in the middle between. I guess it's darker than straw, but it's a bit orangey. It's very light orange. But yeah, that smell.
That's what you want. Like when you just got that just lovely smell to it, and it just invites you in.
You can taste the Nelson Sauvin in that. It's got a very like vinous and earthy kind of taste to it.
Nice.
I'm getting that way more at the moment. Getting that way more than like any fruit or citrus at the moment. Going for another sip. That's a really nice beer. It's thin as well. Not in a bad way, but it's very light. It's extremely light bodied for 6% as well. It's like, wow, you could tell me that's I wouldn't go as far to say a table beer, but it is really, really, really thin.
That's interesting.
In a nice way, a very refreshing, crisp way.
Because boundary beers, not always, but you usually find they have a bit more of viscosity to them. They're that little heavier.
Absolutely, and this one doesn't have it, and I think maybe that has minimized that kind of like slightly grainy taste that I get from them, because I'm not picking it up as much here at all. Like it's very not sharp in like kind of like it's sour or something like that, but very straight to the point. It's very thin. It just goes right through. There's no coat in your mouth or anything. It's just it just gets across those flavors, especially the Nelson Sauvin, like really quickly. As I say, it's got a very like slightly earthy, vinous kind of taste to it, which is really nice. It's working well with like a little bit of citrus, a little bit of orange underneath.
Yeah,
I guess it's like people have like natural orange wines or something like that. This is what that. Well, it's even got the color. It's not like it's really good. It's really good. I'm very impressed. Let me go for another sip. See if I get anything else. I think what I'm probably wanting a bit more of is a bit of bitterness at the end. So I'm not getting that at the moment.
Okay. It's hard for bitterness to kind of develop when we sort of try and sit on top of the beer and think, well, what else am I going to get out of this? Bitterness is usually not one of those things that kind of develops later on. You might get a few different fruits and things as stuff starts to settle and sort of the ripeness kind of comes down that little bit. But yeah, bitterness never usually just appears, does it?
Yeah, unless it's really bitter and it's like, wow. Yeah. But and it's something that you can lose over time as you get acclimated to it. So yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I think maybe when it warms up, that bitterness will show a bit more. But there's definitely something on the end. I don't know if it's just more of that very vinous kind of taste to it. But yeah, that's a really lovely beer. It's so light and refreshing. It feels like a summer beer. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. So
perfect.
Callum, I see you. I've done it, Callum.
That's it. When he just sends beers over to the UK, we can get them here still. I know he gets them nice and fresh. From Boundary, being not far from them. And a beer that I think doesn't need to be fresh. I think this Vault City, and lots of Vault City beers have an incredibly long shelf life to them. This has a best before date of September of 2023, so it can sit and sit and sit and sit. I think obviously from the bottle shop I got it from the shelf rather than from the fridge. I did chill it.
Stronger beers.
Yeah, I did chill it down for this evening, but it wasn't in the fridge for long. I don't know whether Vault City put on any kind of indication about temperature that it should be drank at or anything. No, nothing, which is fine.
Just to interject, I am getting that bitterness now.
Are you? So, nice, okay.
Coming full circle. It's a very good bit. Continue.
I mean, from back here, it could almost be mistaken for a sort of a very light porter. It's black, but when you get a little bit closer, it's just got that lovely red sort of tint to it, a little brown and red kind of colour to it. When you put it right up to the light, you get incredible redness. I don't know quite whether
I just saw that at the corner of it. Yeah, I can see it from there. Yeah, sort of
just comes through, and it's got that lovely, lovely smell. When I cracked the bottle, it felt maybe a little bit more sort of hazelnutty, but now I'm getting those blueberries. Like you're getting a tang from those blueberries, but also a lot of chocolate. Absolutely tons of chocolate on the nose. A little bit more on the kind of darker roasted sort of side.
Yeah, the fact that you said that you could smell hazelnut really excites me about that, because, gosh, I think, who did I have a hazelnut beer from recently? Ooh, I'd have to look it up, but yeah, just, you can't go wrong with putting hazelnuts in your beer. You just can't. It's impossible to.
I mean, it's interesting that that's the note that I got. So, I mean, it's a, what was it called? Double maple triple chocolate blueberry s'more. It's a s'more where they mash marshmallows in between biscuits
over the fire. Yeah. Crazy Americans, man.
Or is it just where they just melt,
maybe North
melt
Americans? I
yes.
don't know.
North
We'll have to.
Americans.
If only the Canadian was here to tell me if they have s'mores in Canada.
They've got to. Surely they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting a lot of the blueberry on the flavour, which it comes through with a tang, as you would expect with a sour, and it's got a lovely sort of fizziness to it as well, which kind of pushes that blueberry really to the front, so you're sort of like hit with that lovely tangy kind of blueberry. But working in the background, you get the maple, you get a lot of sweetness from the maple, but it's kind of just runs through. It's got not a viscosity, not an oiliness to it, but it kind of coats this beer coats the mouth that little bit, and that maple, that sweetness, is kind of this underlying flavour that is sort of sat there, and everything else sort of hits that little bit. So you're first hit with that lovely tangy sort of blueberry. That fades slightly and gives you a little bit more of the chocolate, and I can see why, again with the idea that it's got a marshmallowy sort of feel to it. I'm not getting kind of the flavour of marshmallow, but kind of as that tang from the blueberries starts to fade, and you're getting a little bit more of that kind of chocolate, that richness from it. I think it's because it's a richer sort of dark chocolatey sort of flavour. It makes it feel a little bit more kind of light and airy. So you've gone from this nice big, a little bit more heavy tang to suddenly something that would in say like a stout would come through as a heavier sort of flavour, a big roasted dark chocolate sort of flavour. But in this, it's really light. It's not kind of, as we say about some beers, they're incredibly pillowy in the mouthfeel and the way that they sort of present. This isn't. It's not pillowy, but it's sort of airy and light, and it does bring sort of visions of marshmallows whilst not giving me quite that flavour of them. But it sort of just, everything kind of fades very nicely, and that maple is just sat there. That sweetness is kind of just sat there. And again, whether it's maple, whether it's maybe a bit more kind of golden syrupy, I mean, they're incredibly close in terms of flavour, unless you speak to anyone from Canada, I would imagine. But it's that lovely kind of maple sweetness, that treacly kind of sweetness that's just sat there at the back, running all the way through. Incredibly easy to drink. It's something we've said about good beers and their sours. They're so easy to drink.
Yeah, because putting that many words on a bottle and so many different flavors, and a lot of them that evoke that's going to be sweet. That honestly puts me off, like buying a lot of stouts when they're like, okay, we've got we've got maple syrup. I mean, just putting maple syrup on it might put me off, just that alone. And like s'mores and like Oreos and cookie dough and ice cream. I'm just like, I do not have a sweet tooth. My palate doesn't really like sweet things.
Yeah.
But knowing that's very like light and easy to drink, just that makes it so much more enticing. And very good memories of drinking like Vault City last year when they were kind enough to send us a few bottles just like in the sun, and it's like I can't wait for that time this year. Providing the sun hasn't just like burnt out by then. Just sitting in the garden with some Vault City.
We might have enough for maybe another summer, perhaps.
Let's hope so. I want to play Silk Song before I die. Just give me that.
Luce, it's never happening. Come on,
I know.
That's not.
I know, I'll die first. Play it in my honour, Ben.
Oh, mate, I'll be long dead when Silk Song comes out, if it ever does. Let's sit
Your
and enjoy these.
grandchildren are playing Silk Song.
We'll tell tales. I'll tell Evelyn the tale of Silk Song. This
the bug people.
mythical game about bug people, and see if she passes it down for generations.
We can just tell them that was our civilization. That's what it was like. Underground bug people.
And that's why we're like this today. Good. Let's enjoy these and talk about some games. I think we've got a game each to chat through. Lucy, why don't you kick us off as you did with the beers?
Yeah, it's a game that is out today as of recording, tomorrow for the folks who are listening. It's called The Company Man, and I played it on Switch. It is a 2D side-scrolling platformer, as you probably could have guessed, because I'm playing it, talking about it. But yeah, it's an exceptionally well-made one of those. Like, so many of them come out like that are just like 2D side-scroll action platformers, and you know, sometimes the quality is very good, sometimes the quality is not so good. This is a really good, well-made one. I mean, just if you look at screenshots, what's the name of the developer? That might help, because The Company Man probably doesn't give very good SEO. It's probably put in The Company Man game.
Yeah. Let's see what Google says if I do that right now.
I think it was Forust Studio. They're Malaysian, I know that. Which is cool to see, like, really well-made indie game come out of that space that, you know, don't really see many games from over here, you know, on our yeah, Forust.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying that nice. Forust. Yeah, it came out on Switch. Is it
Radianity Publishing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on everything by the looks of it. Xbox, PlayStation, PC. Yeah, it's, if you just look at the screenshots, it looks like I guess a Cartoon Network kind of art style, and that just completely translates in the animation. The animation's really good. If you look at it in, like, the trailer, watch that in motion, it really translates into the gameplay. But yeah, it's a really well controlling platformer. That, you know, most important thing when you make a platformer that some people just don't get right is just the feel of it. This feels really good. Like the controls are really tight and responsive, and it's got a slightly generous jump, like kind of you know, slightly airy, slightly forgiving, which is nice. But yeah, it just really flows because you have this dash ability, and dashing games, it's like there's nothing better. You know, have a good dash, have a good shotgun in your game, and I think you sorted. but yeah, it's got a really nice dash mechanic that is just like unlocked from the get-go. It's not really a game about unlocking many abilities, but yeah, it feels really fluid, feels really responsive. I just zipped through it because it gives you the freedom to just like how by good and tight it controls. So it's like, I mean, the game I talked about a few weeks ago where I was like, this feels so heavy and slow and lethargic. This is the complete opposite. This is just very zippy. But yeah, it's the controls are, you run, you jump, you dash, and you have this, I guess it's like this kind of keyboard gun which allows you to shoot projectiles, and those are sort of the unlocks after levels, because it's a level by level game.
Okay.
That you can unlock, and it does these, you know, one gives you, it's like a contra, one's like a spray gun, one's just like this arc, one's a boomerang and stuff like that. I pretty much stuck to the same one after I unlocked it and didn't really change it up. I don't think.
Do you switch between these, or are they different attacks?
You can just switch to your different, like, kind of gun. That's the only thing that changes. You have melee attacks, and that's what you're going to be using the most.
Right.
You do have this, you know, further, like, you know, ranged attack with your gun. You know, dependent on the enemies that you're facing, will come in handy. But usually it's like, okay, whichever one will do the trick most of the time. You don't really need to switch it up. But it's on Switch, it's just like you press like the right bumper, and it's like just switches between all of them. But yeah, there are like hidden coins in each level, and in between each levels, you sort of go to like the foyer of this, very corporate, office building, because it's called the Company Man. I'll touch on like the themes that it gets into, but you can upgrade your character. Just like, okay, I want him to have more health, or I want his cooldown, because the thing that your gun basically has a cooldown. It's like, okay, I want the cooldown to be quicker and stuff like that. But maybe for more novice players, and maybe for people who are doing the impossible mode, after the game you unlock an impossible mode, which is like you get one life, one bar of health, and if that goes, you're dead. Maybe you can upgrade your health, and maybe those upgrades will make more sense in that mode. I'm not a sadist, so I didn't play much of that mode after I unlocked it. But usually you could get through the game without the upgrades if you wanted to. So it is like a nice addition, but it's not. There's no like RPG mechanics or anything like that in depth. But yeah, it's called the Company Man. It's basically this guy. He's in this very push paper office job, and he wants to get better pay, get better benefits, as we all do. And it's just about him rising to the top and confronting the CEO. And yeah, each level's like really charming and really inventive in its environments. I mean, you think, okay, office building as a setting, that's going to be very boring. But no, it's very, very fun. They really play with it. Like, for example, in the accounting department, one of the floors, it's like everyone's very, very stoic, very, very straight-laced, very, I don't know, puritanical, I don't know. And it's just like, okay, this is literally a frozen, it's the ice level. Right. And whereas you go up to marketing, everyone's like a hippie, and there's like bean bags that act as like bouncy things, and it's like everything's bright and colorful. There's enemies with like paint brushes and stuff like that. So it plays with it, and it's really quite funny. And the kind of, there's not really a story to it. It's basically a commentary on like, okay, now and then, there's bits of text that's just the main character, this this regular Joe. He's just, oh, why do I not get paid properly? Why do I have to come in on the weekends? Oh, I do, and it's just like it's very light commentary on like corporate, the corporate world. There is like one flashback in the middle of the game that kind of gives context to why he's so eager to, go up the corporate ladder and, break glass ceilings and stuff like that. And that gives him a bit of pathos, and it's like, okay, cool, but there's no real underlying message to it. It's sort of on the lighthearted level of like going under, that roguelike that I played that is like set in Silicon Valley. It's not as funny as that, but it is trying to be like, okay, we're gonna talk about this very horrible thing in a light-hearted manner. So yeah, that's nice, but it's not like Kentucky Route Zero or anything. It's not in-depth commentary on corporate culture. But yeah, I think the only nitpick I have is that sometimes the checkpoints are a bit too spaced apart in each level, but it's a very quick and fast game to get through. It's a couple of hours.
What's a level sort of take? 10 minutes? Or is it a bit longer, sort of 20 minutes per level?
If I die, I have to go back to the checkpoint. A little longer, but I was getting through them probably in about 20 minutes. There's like some mini bosses and end bosses. And this could have so easily been like a roguelike, when you think of like you go into the elevator up to these different floors and they're just different levels. That could have been so easily like, okay, you have to start from level 1 at each time. It's like, no, it's just a very well made level by level action platformer.
Nice.
And yeah, as I say, the only nitpick I can think of is sometimes the checkpoints are a bit too spaced apart, or it's like there's a very slow moving bit, like, okay, you're on in this like kind of platform that's that's moving across this like ravine or something, and it's like I'm having to wait. It sort of becomes like an auto scroller, and like I don't know, level 8 in Mario 3 or something. It's just like I'm having to wait, and then the checkpoint is before that, and it's like not after it, and it's like, oh, I have to do that all over again. But usually it was just down to me being careless why I died. It's not too challenging or anything.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a very well made action platformer. I really enjoyed my time with it. I pretty much did it in 2 sittings.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Did you finish Blasphemous as well? We were talking about it last
I
week.
did, yeah.
Obviously,
yeah,
a similar-ish kind of game in it being a kind of an action platformer. I know with kind of trying to bring to something I played recently, with Blasphemous, it can be a little bit unforgiving when you are kind of, especially when you start going up into the mountains and things, and you've got floating, flying enemies, and you kind of have to jump and attack them, and the platforming element becomes quite not a hindrance, but it's something else that you have to really concentrate on. And the amount of times that I've kind of just fallen through a little gap in Blasphemous because I've just been a bit rubbish at judging the kind of distance I need to cover and how the attack animation sort of, what extra distance that kind of gives me and those kinds of things. Did you get any of that in sort of the company man, or does it flow just that little bit better in terms of its movement?
It flows a lot better. It's more, much more agile. I mean, Blasphemous is very close to the ground, like there's no dash ability or there's not even a double jump, so it's just like, the company man, I'd say, whereas Blasphemous is mostly combat, this is very much a equal parts action like game and a platformer. So equal bits combat and platforming. As I say, the combat is not. It's not really expansive. There's no depth to it. You're really just like swinging your melee attack and that's it. But it feels good. So probably if I had to give a percentage to it, maybe 55%. Platforming, 55-60% platforming, and 40-45 to the combat. But yeah, it mixes those things up really well, and there are different. Sometimes they introduce these like new mechanics into like the level where it's like, okay, the gravity changes, or there's like these teleporting things. The only problem, I guess, is that the levels are so short, or at least I got through them very quickly, where they don't have the opportunity to expand those beyond, the couple minutes that you see them. But it kept things moving and kept things interesting. So it was a nice little addition. But yeah, as I say, really really good. It's a straight up platformer, straight up action platformer. Like, and it's good. Good. Really enjoyed myself.
Good. Nice. It looks interesting, as you said, from the just the comic-y cartoon style kind of aesthetic. I sort of, as soon as I looked at it, I'm like, oh, this just instantly kind of draws you in, definitely. So it's good to hear that it is a competent platform, an action platformer as well, rather than it looks cool. It's a bit of a dash to the end and you're done kind of thing.
Yeah, it isn't just style over substance. Good. It's got the substance as well. As I say, it's short, especially if you're, adept at platformers. So take that in mind, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it. It's a good couple hours.
Nice. The game I've been playing is also full of style, full of substance. Substance.
Style and substance, but is not short. It's a game which you will lose hours to. I started playing Darkest Dungeon 2. I mentioned it sort of a few weeks ago, and I have been playing it, in not short bursts, but in reasonable kind of segments. So before I kind of get into it, I've kind of been playing, an hour here and then an hour there. I realise I've got about 20
22 hours that I've sort of put into it. But it takes kind of the idea of the first Darkest Dungeon, which was an RPG, like a roguelike kind of RPG, in that you had 4 characters that made up your party, and you're moving through a dungeon in the first game. And obviously, if one of your characters dies, that's it, they're dead, and you go back to the sort of the main screen where you can recruit other members of your party, and you are working through the different dungeons. Darkest Dungeon 2 switches that into a Slay the Spire style kind of choose a path map sort of game.
Okay.
Rather than Slay the Spire or something like the early Slay, the first part of Inscription, you actually move through the corridor that you've picked, basically, and each of these are set up into different areas, and you've got 4 areas that you need to get through before you get to the mountain, which is the kind of big boss of the area. And it keeps the same sort of style as Darkest Dungeon. So if you know and you've played Darkest Dungeon and you enjoy it, in terms of the kind of the combat system, having 4 party members all lined up on this 2D plane, and order of where they are is very important, because the different moves they do are dependent on where they are within that formation. And the enemies line up in exactly the same sort of way opposite you. Person in position number 1 can hit X, Y, and Z using this, or A, B, and C using this, and you roll through like that. And it's exactly the same kind of combat through this.
But games like, because I've always thought Darkest Dungeon was interesting because it has that, like, as you say, that like one behind the other. Do any other games like do that, or is that like?
I don't know.
Just like it seems like really unique.
Yeah,
but I don't play a lot of
I mean,
RPGs.
Like a lot of, and some RPGs have run through like the idea of having like a front and a back. So some characters can stand at the front, some of them stand at the back, and normally you throw your healers at the back, you throw your kind of tough tanks and damage dealers at the front. And this is similar in that kind of way. That you don't necessarily always find that the guy at the front is being hit the most, but they will probably.
It's not like Operation Human Shield in the same.
it's not quite exactly. But it generally follows that same kind of path, but it is a very set 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of positioning, and various characters will always draw towards have an affinity with one of those positions. So the healer that I use all the time is in the back, right? They're a healer, but they also throw like bombs that can put on poison and stuff onto characters and things as well, and they do all of that from the back. And they've got, I think, one ability which they can do if they get pulled into the front position, which some enemies can do. They can move your order around, they can pull characters kind of in different positions and stuff. They can put dots on you, the same as kind of you can do as well with your characters, and then there might only be one. And Darkest Dungeon 2 retains the idea of stress as well. So whilst you're having to manage their health and keep them all, as you need to, some things affect their stress levels. I can't remember, because it's been so long, what happened when they hit the top stress in the first game. But in this one, if they hit the top stress, a big chunk of their life gets taken off. And each of the characters have relationships between them. So if they get stressed, that will negatively affect the relationships that they have with the other characters. And you want them to have good relationships between them, because what can happen is sometimes they might just heal each other just randomly because they're like best buds. They might take one they might take 1 or 2 stress down as well at the start of one of those characters' turns. They can buff them. There's loads of stuff that they can even do an attack with you as well. If you attack with this character and his best bud's here, he might attack as well one of the enemies. And I don't know how the RNG works around that, because I find that they are happy to heal more than they do any of the other kind of things, and there's a little bit of balancing that could be done there, but it's early access. It is in early access. One of the things that I've liked already is it's been patched already with a bunch of stuff chucked in. When it first kind of released, it was you get in your caravan and you can see your map, and you basically say, you press left and you go this way. You drive forward, you know, with WASD, you drive forward and you can hit through little barriers, and they may give you items on your way and things like this, or you can just auto let the caravan navigate between, and you get to each of those, you know, each of the different points. So you know that if you're going up here, this one's a fight, this one might be where you meet some people on the road and they might give you some items. So you choose to go over to this one, and occasionally there might be fights on that little stretch between each sort of node. There's tons of these different kinds of nodes as well. So you're kind of always trying to strategize as well. Like a lot of these kind of games, you don't always know what's coming. You can have some indication occasionally of what's coming up. And Darkest Dungeon 2 kind of does this thing where, again, I don't know whether it's an RNG thing, but the map might come up and go, this one's this, but you don't know what this is. That's that, but you don't know what the next ones are here. So,
question mark.
Exactly. And you kind of have to suss, before you start, a good idea is to sort of suss your path out and go, well, actually, about halfway through, it'd be really good if I visited the hospital. You know, this like field medic that's just out with her tent set up, because it's all like grimdark, kind of fantasy sort of stuff. So it's not a hospital, it's just a bit of cloth with a woman stood underneath. And if you've got enough currency which you've picked up, you can pay her to, you know, either heal you or get rid of some of the kind of additional traits that might do things to your characters. Because again, as with the first game, they've kept things like traits in as well. So some characters might have a trait which is good and beneficial, and they might get like an extra attack. I don't think that's one actually, but you know, that kind of stuff. Or they might have one where there's a 50% chance that they might start out being blinded, and they might miss and there's a percentage that they might miss their first attack, sort of thing. So there's all of that sort of in this as well, and it's been really fun to play with the different lineups and the different characters and how the affinities between them sort of work really well, because there is an overall leveling as well. So you as a player have like this level that you stack up, and as you move through the levels, you unlock new characters to be able to use. You might unlock new items that will then be found kind of in the run, and things like that. And I've got this preferred sort of set of 4 characters, which worked for me really, really well, and got me through to the final sort of section. So you've got to hit through 4 sections again before you get to the mountain where the boss is for the level, for the chapter that you're playing. And I think on my 3rd area, my main tank and damage dealer died, but at the end of the area, you get to an inn, and you can then apply sort of heals to each other. You can bring their stresses down and stuff. But if you've unlocked characters, one of the other ones will step in, and they will then take their place, which is great because you go then through with another 4 characters through the next sort of area. And even though the kind of the character that stepped in didn't work as well with the other 3 that I had in terms of how I positioned all of these characters and how that was working, I still, in the last run that I've just played, managed to get through to the mountain. It's the first time I've done it, and I just got murdered. Absolutely destroyed.
Always the way.
And it's an incredibly difficult game. It's really hard. One of the
That's what's always put me off of it, because I own the first one, just like I'm afraid. Because when you're talking about the stress levels, I'm just thinking, my stress levels, I don't want to deal with that.
But it does, like, the idea that I'm sort of sat here and I'm watching a fight happen, and I'm like, right, I think this character's going to hit these 2 and they're going to make them bleed, or they're going to do some damage to them. Oh no, this character's done it to him instead, which is really not good, which means he needs a heal. But if I heal him, I know the relationship between these 2 isn't good, and the other one needs a heal. And if their relationship isn't good in a combat, and I try and heal person number 3 instead, the other one can block it. He can come up and say, hey, am I not worthy of your like heals? And it will then stop you from being able to heal your characters. So the stress makes a massive, massive difference.
This is like Sims, where you can't just say, no, you do not have autonomy. You will not go to the toilet right now.
It's weird that it kind of, in a way, it doesn't take the agency away from you, but it just changes that, so the characters have a little bit of agency as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's really good in that sort of way. But again, the difference between when I was playing it first a couple of weeks ago and now is this first patch. The game kind of just let me loop constantly. So rather than it saying you've got, you can pick between going to this area or this area for stage number 1, or this area and this area for stage number 2. Before, I could just keep looping. There wasn't 4 stages to play. It was just play as long as you can keep going for, essentially. And so then they threw this next patch in, which is sort of, this is how the game is now structured. You've got 4 areas that you've got to go through to get access to the mountain. To actually be able to go into the mountain for this boss fight, you need to have killed one of the kind of, not bosses, but you need to have hit one of the lairs, which is one of the points on. And it's a 3-stage fight. You fight sort of 2 battles of kind of normal enemies that you would find on that map, and then a boss. And they are just ridiculously hard. It's only been my last run where I'm like, well, I'm on stage 4. I've got to go and fight the boss in the lair. I'm running through with this good team with this sort of like this extra character who kind of doesn't quite fit into this, but it does well enough that I managed to kill that boss to then get its head and be able to and have access to the mountain. And the game sort of very much comes up with a warning at the front saying you won't get to the end in the first go. Don't worry about it. The whole point of this game is to keep bashing your head against it, and to keep getting better, to keep improving these characters.
That's cool.
And there's tons of depth to this, absolutely tons of depth.
Sounds like you're enjoying it. To keep playing something in early access. Yeah,
completely. And it'd be interesting to see how it develops and when it comes out of early access, because even now it feels like a really deep and very well made game. There's a little bit of balancing to do, perhaps, between sort of some of the RNG. Some of the enemies feel a little bit bigger than they kind of should be. Some of the abilities on the characters aren't quite as powerful compared to you might unlock a new ability for one of your characters, which you do through hero shrines, which again gives you a little bit of backstory to one of these characters, and they're based in chapters as well. So one of the nodes on the map is a hero shrine. You go there, you pick one of your characters, and it will take you through a chapter of their backstory. And if you complete that and do what you need to, you get a new move for them. But some of those moves that I've unlocked, some of them have been like, oh yeah, this is brilliant because there's already this move and this does a similar kind of thing. It's slightly weaker, but it hits 2 of them instead. I want that. Yeah, something. And some of them are like, nah, there's no point in having this one in. It doesn't fit. I mean, there might be for some team combinations and play styles and things, but at the moment I haven't found a huge amount of change. Build, But again,
I'd imagine it's all balancing those random things, like those random dice rolls where this character can shank another one in the back randomly and stuff like that. So that sounds really cool. Like that's the kind of stuff that I love on paper, but me playing it, I'd be like, what are these little effers gonna do? I'd just be stressed on edge the whole
completely
time. But
absolutely.
I can absolutely see why that kind of like, because like most most games just don't have that kind of freedom and stuff like that. So apparently that's what I wonder if you'd like Wildermyth, because apparently that does a lot of throwing crap at you and stuff.
Is Wildermyth an RPG that came out recently-ish?
Yeah, it came out last year and people love it. Yeah.
I've heard of it, but I definitely when I did hear of it, I think it was a couple of tweets I saw about it, and I thought that definitely looks interesting. It looks like something that would be up my street.
Yeah, it sounds like Darkest Dungeon, to be honest, but a bit more colourful and less stressful, maybe.
But it's like Darkest Dungeon 2. It's one of those where I say it can be as stressful as you sort of make it, but it isn't. The game absolutely puts that on you. As a player, you can just shrug it off and be like, yeah, well, this run's done. Just see it out and wait for the next one. Don't worry about it. I'm playing the long game to wait till I'm as a kind of player level 15 and I've unlocked all of the characters because I know I want that last one because that fits in with the play style that I had from the first game. You know, there's tons of that in there as well that you can kind of get into. Whereas
there's a sense of progress.
Yeah, there is a sense of absolutely between, right? Yes, and as well at the moment, I suppose this is maybe where a lot of that non-early access kind of stuff will be developed further. There's 5 chapters, and only chapter 1 is available. So I don't know then whether chapter 2 will come out and it will be completely different areas with different enemies. You know, whether we're almost getting this, because this feels like a full game. You know, this feels like they could just put out chapter 1 as a game, because you're going through all of that progression. You're going through all of those different runs. Flog it for 15 quid, done. We don't need to put out anything else. That's it. But there's going to be 5 chapters, and it's like a £25 game, I think, something like that. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with those. If it's just maybe recycled kind of assets, and then they're just a bit harder as you progress up sort of through, or what happens with that.
Or if it's completely different environments or something like that.
Exactly. Cool. I can't see it doing an Inscription and being like, oh, chapter 2, we're changing up what you're doing. You know, I still think we're going to be doing this kind of roguelite, take the coach through the map sort of thing. It will just be different kind of areas, and maybe it won't be, or maybe it will be the mountain, but you progress higher up it or something, because on the first chapter you're right down on the ground and you go into the base of the mountain sort of thing. So maybe you
need to fight that dragon at the top of the mountain, mate. That's what it's all building to.
I don't think it's much of a spoiler, but the first boss in the mountain, which again I'd healed up, all of my stress level was taken down at the inn that I went to just before, but there's 2 fights before you get to the boss, and they absolutely beat me. And so when I got into the boss, I was already at sort of half health on all of the characters and this sort of thing. But the first boss is a brain, but you don't fight the brain, you fight 4 locks that are on these big chains. And it's so surreal. I love it.
Yeah, it sounds visually cool.
I love how nuts it is. And like the character design, again, the enemy design and stuff, it feels like it's taken a step up from kind of Darkest Dungeon. Whereas before it was like, here's like a humanoid pig with a couple of cleavers. Now it's like just guts that kind of spout out from the top with a couple of cleavers. And you're like, oh, that's taking a step up from just pigs.
That sounds amazing in this game.
Yeah.
I'm just looking through screenshots, because I didn't realise when I was searching it on Steam, I was like, where is it? And I was like, oh, it's not on here, so it has to be on Epic.
It's only on Epic.
Yeah.
I did manage to use my... I picked it up in the Christmassy sort of sale period where they were giving... You know, I think you have to have spent a certain amount of money on Epic Store, and you get £10 free vouchers every now and again. Yeah. So for me, it cost me like 15, 16 quid.
Yeah, it's $23.99. Yeah, so not bad. Yeah.
So yes, I mean, it's one of those where, again, I'll probably report back in like 6 months' time or something. I'd love to chuck up, whether that's sort of find a lunchtime, if I can ever find a lunchtime to stream and play a game again in, rather than just working. It'd be great to sort of sit and have like you and Adel kind of in the background, and to just go through a run, and then the next week go through the next sort of stage, and just have potentially a four sets of 4 videos.
I think that's how I like RPGs. Sit in back seat and just be like saying, no, don't do the sensible thing. Do this weird. Yeah. Just kill everyone.
What do you mean you could stab him? Nah, throw a book at him or something instead. Put a pot on his head. Because
I'm very much like, let's just go all out, balls to the wall. Try and kill it. And there's no tactics here. We just brute force our way through these RPG puzzles.
Yeah. Darkest Dungeon, you're going to die very quickly in Darkest Dungeon 2. You just want to brute force your...
That's why I'm not playing it. That's why it's not the game for me, then. It's not the game for me.
That's fine.
But
it's definitely one for...
I imagine
again,
this will come up later. It sounds like you're really enjoying it.
yeah.
Probably might even come up as one of your games of the year.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's I haven't played very many games this year, and it's it did release last year, I think. Obviously, as an early
can
access
still be a game of
title,
the
so it could very well
year.
be this year.
We have no rules.
No, that's
Yeah.
very true. We don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Darkest Dungeon 2 and the Company Man as
Yeah.
well.
I briefly want to talk about probably the last Kinect game ever.
What?
In hold on, is it Space Warlord Organ Simulator?
Ah.
Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator, which came out on Game Pass, I think in like December. It's a weird game. It's very much a okay. It's like this green wireframe kind of aesthetic and UI to it, and you buy organs, human organs, and then later unlocks like alien organs on a stock market. And basically, you take requests from people. It's like I need a liver. Buy me a liver, and you buy a liver, and you give it to them, and you basically just uh, getting more wealth from trading organs. There's like a little stock market in it, like where you can like buy stocks and trade and stuff. I didn't get too into that. I was just, it's just a very, it drops you into it where it's like, okay, very short like cutscene at the start. It's like, we trade organs in the year, whatever it is. Someone has to do it, and you're getting paid for it. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about the moral implications
It's
of it.
us. We'll
And
do it.
yeah, and then there's a button, and it's just like buy, and then this stock market opens, and it's like being on the floor of Wall Street and someone going sell, 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 sell. It's just like you see all these like different stocks and just come up in this list, and it's like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. The music is like shouting at me. It's a really cool soundtrack, but it's so messy and like it's crazy,
It
and it's
sounds
just
like
like, okay,
It sounds like the same experience as Darkest Dungeon.
yes, it is. It's a lot of stress at the start, and because you don't know what you're doing, you're just buying organs, and it's like, okay, I've got my stock here, and it's like in my hold I have these hearts, and then I need to sell these hearts, I need to sell these livers, I need to sell these brains, these lungs, these nerve clusters, and it's just like, oh. And then it becomes like a really soothing experience after like an hour and a half in, where it's just like, okay, I've got this down. I'm picking up these requests, and I'm just knocking them out. I'm like the Wolf of Wall Street here with my organs, and yeah, it's a really strange game. There's a story to it. I have no idea what it is. I rolled credits without even realizing it, and it's just like, okay, cool, but it's a really odd thing that you can play with Kinect.
How do you play it with Kinect?
Very
How does this work?
with great difficulty. Because it works like right out of the box. Because I have a Kinect, I'm using it as a web camera, so it's like it's there, and it turns on like as soon as you start the game. You just wave your arm in front of it, and you can like grab. It's open palm, closed palm, because the Kinect has very good tracking like that, and it's just selecting the different things on the UI. It's the same as using the mouse, but you're using your arms, and it's like a Ring Fit workout. Just having to, okay, grab this, because everything's moving very quickly, and I think the developers launched a competition for anyone who could beat it using Kinect. It's just like a £50 prize. It's like, that's not worth my life,
Like a coffee.
That's not going to pay for my funeral. Being just strained using Kinect on this thing. But yeah, it's a really cool, interesting thing that I really enjoyed for a couple hours. That's on Game Pass. I had no idea it was a thing, and then it just launched on Game Pass, and it's like, I started it on console, And I was like, I cannot play this on console because I'm having to. This is a mouse and keyboard game, very much so, and it's like it's too frantic, it's too hectic to do anything, you know, with a controller. But yeah, I enjoyed my time with it, and
Nice.
very weird, amazing soundtrack, amazing look to it, like very old school, you know, aesthetic to it. And it's really cool, like that.
Made by
New
is it
space age.
Xavier Nelson?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
others, I
yeah.
would imagine, who also made that dog airport game.
Yes,
Dog,
yes.
no,
Yeah.
an airport for aliens
An airport
run by dogs,
run
or
by
dogs, or
dogs.
something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. It's just
Airport
pictures of
dogs.
dogs, isn't it? Like as you in
Yeah.
a 3D environment, 2D pictures of dogs.
It's like all weird stuff that it's just like, okay, I'll play this house game.
I love it that we're in a space where someone can just be like, right, how long is it going to take me to get all of these thoughts out of my head into this game, and then just be able to push it out in whatever state I want to get it to, and then be able to do it.
It's not an in-depth simulator, which part of me was like, oh, I wish this had a bit more depth, but it's like, it doesn't need it. It's like I'm, you know, trading kidneys in space. It's cool, you know, to a really great soundtrack. Good.
When did that one come out? Was it last year?
Yeah, I think in December. Just popped up on Game Pass. It's like, I don't know what this is, but it looks cool. Sort of got like this Hypno Space Outlaw kind of look to it, and it's just like, I will play this. It's fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. A good time.
I won't tell you about all the other random crap I've been doing. I might save that for episode 300.
Save that for next week. I think next week we won't have played any more games. Next week will just be a ramble for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And we'll catch up with Adol about what he's been up to in Canada. Again, not playing games, just helping his parents move house.
Because when I had my week off last week, I did some tinkering. So.
Oh yes. Oh good. Yeah, we'll get.
I downloaded DOSBox to my PC and other stuff like that. So. Because I did fresh install last year, and it's like, I need to install some things, and so I've been playing a lot of Textrix and Tetris related games. So.
Well, that'd be our topic for episode 300. I also I did play something else. Oh, is that a Game Boy or is it the Playdate?
I have the only Playdate known to existence that's been shipped. As for next week.
Yeah. I did a game you played last year. I did start Behind the Frame.
Oh, yeah.
The little,
it's very short.
Yeah, but really good. Like it's almost like it's a visual novel with a couple of like puzzly sort of elements to it, but the animation's just so beautiful.
I know. Incredible.
The sound as well just works so well. Like it's such a well-made little product that you could almost get away with not having the puzzle elements to it. See, they needed something to kind of push you along to tell you this little short sort of novella kind of length sort of story. But yeah, I just really enjoying that, playing it on my phone, so just finding little bits of time to sort of sit there and just be able to play it.
Nice. Yeah, I forgot that game's a phone. Yeah, it's coming to Switch soon too. And speaking of games that you've played, I've started Read Only Memories.
Oh, nice.
2064 Read Only Memories. Yeah, I'm very early on, but I'm liking it. I really like the world and the humor, and the voice acting's pretty good. So yeah, that's like my lie in bed. When I get, if I don't just collapse asleep, I'll play half an hour of that. So yeah.
Nice. We've managed to get in a full hour of indie games. Just smash it out for a week.
Yeah, all indies.
Nice.
Who'd have thought?
Nice. Well, it's kind of, you know, it's that time of year when none of the bigger games.
It's that time of year,
yet, and we get
all the time for me. I don't play any big games. They're all boring, grey.
Occasionally, you might play a bit of Horizon or something.
I don't know, man. I don't have a PlayStation.
Oh no, your friends got your PlayStation, haven't they?
Yeah, I can't be asked to ask for it back. That's more of the problem. It's just like I'd have to go get it, or I'd have to put on clothes so he can come here and deliver it.
Just to even open the door.
Yeah, hassle.
I get it. Again, you could just look on the internet about it, couldn't you? Just be like, oh yeah, that person's played it. I'll just watch
a
their
playthrough on YouTube. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not. I think it's because I really liked the first one. Liked where that wrapped up. I'm not compelled to play the second one. Like I'm not champing at the bit for it. It's like I will play it, but I'm not. It's like the Spider-Man Miles Morales thing. It's like I want to play it eventually, but I'm not champing at the bit to play. It's like just played Spider-Man. It's pretty much the same thing, known quantity. I hope I'm not like that with God of War, because that looks cool, but yeah.
I mean, it's always kind of the way with, again, not necessarily sequels, because you expect a bit of iteration and kind of stepping up that little bit and doing something. And Forbidden West looks a little bit more Breath of the Wildy as well, with the glider and those kinds of elements about how you move around the space. But yeah, Miles Morales is great. It's got a really good, nice short story. I didn't necessarily like the sort of the enemy types and stuff, but playing as Miles was really good. Different kinds of movesets and things like that. So, but it's like a sideways step, isn't it? It's like an addition to Spider-Man rather than that iteration, rather than that sort of step up. But all of the games that we
I'd probably like eat my hat like in a month's time when that game's out, and people are like, oh, there's this really cool dino bot, and I'm like, shut that, I'm gonna have to get a PlayStation 5.
I've got to see the big snake robot.
Yeah. I need to see it. That's it. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't want one of those behemoths. I don't want it. I have to buy it with the black faceplates, put it behind my TV.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. It's gonna happen, Lucy. It's gonna happen at some point. If you can find one. I still can't find one. Every time I see something flash up saying they're in stock, I go and they're not. I
think they're opening up that thing where you can register with them directly. Sony Direct. I think they're opening up to Europe. I don't know if that's the UK.
And then they email you and say, we have one. Your name is on it. Do you want it? Yes, I need that.
I was going to sign up for your behalf, but if Horizon's good, you ain't getting it. So.
I know, it's just like it all comes out every outlet. It's just like, yeah, it's 11 out of 10. It's done. You're like, well, 11 out of 10. Maybe
I think I'll just get my PlayStation 4 at that point.
Yeah.
Because it's still a beast. It sounds like hell, but it's still they made a very good console.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I would imagine that they've optimized it well enough that to release it on 4 and 5, that it's going to run well. That's
on 4
as well.
That's what most people are playing on. It's crazy. Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. That's... nice, cool. Let's wrap up there for this episode. Nice sort of shorter one for us this week, as we prepare for something maybe a little bit longer next week, and the return of Adel and tons of beers probably. But the Boundary, Lucy. How did that go down in the end? I know as you
really
drank it, a little bit more bitterness started to come through and things as well.
Yeah, a little bit more bitterness. This absolutely did not do the kind of thing that I was not fearful of, but like a bit reticent to buy like Boundary beers, because it had that kind of grainy taste that I just I don't know what it is, but this, none of that. I shall be picking up more of their beers in the future. Just really refreshing, crisp. Like it's lasted about an hour now, and it's just a perfect one to sup on. Really, really impressed by that.
Nice.
Really good beer. What's it called again? Just read out the name. More of a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon. Phenomenal. Very good.
Maybe that's why it's got another graininess. They're like, wow, this is completely different. It's a phenomenon for us. It's good.
How was the Vault City?
I mean, this is the Vault City make excellent beers. This is one of them. The tartness of the blueberry It didn't fade, but I think I just became a little bit more accustomed to it. So, you know, towards the end of the beer, I wasn't getting that sharp hit of blueberry. I was getting just, still a blueberry flavour to it, but something that was just a little bit more smooth and flowed in with those other flavours just a little bit, rather than being and then easing through. Then, you know, towards the end, the second half of this beer just eased through all of those. It's a lovely set of flavours, and one which will compel you to keep drinking and drinking and drinking. And I know Vault are great in that they put it in a 375 bottle as well. So something like a 10%, you're not getting a 440 can, you're not getting a 500ml can. It doesn't feel too big. And a lot of the time with Vault City, especially their bigger beers, you can kind of sit there and be like, yeah, that's about the right size. I think this actually could have been in a bigger tin.
500ml.
I mean, it could have been 750ml, and I'd have happily sat here and just supped it all evening. It's that kind of beer. It's not all. It's incredibly tart. You know, it's really well made, but it's sort of such a sour. And you know, when we had Andy on, and he was talking about kind of Vault City and sort of how they brew beers, they don't make those like real kind of sours to put you off, or you know. They try and find that kind of like middle ground between it being like a fruited beer and having a bit of a and calling it a sour essentially. This, I would have happily drank another one. I'd happily drink another one now. It just ended up so smooth, and I would imagine cracking another one, I might just get that sharpness, that tartness of the blueberry again for say the first quarter or something like that, before it started to smooth out a little bit more, because some of the carbonation faded, so took a little bit of that away as well. But really excellent beer, even in that last little bit after that carbonation and that tartness had gone as well. So yeah, really happy I cracked this one open today.
Two happy campers.
Yeah, very much. Dear listener, if you want to let us know about the beers that you've been drinking or the games that you've been playing, you can do so at Tanked Up Cast almost everywhere, or go to and comment on the Tanked Up podcast posts on outoflives.net. It's always helpful as well if you want to rate and review us on your podcast service of choice, or join us on the Out of Lives Network YouTube page and drop us a comment or a subscription over there. Lucy, if people have got other games that, you know, might be the last Kinect game that they want to tell you about to ever come out, and they want to see you sort of, you know, having to move and grab all of these organs or dogs' heads or whatever it is that it might be in this new game, how do they do that?
I'd say they're probably on mushrooms, and because they're on them. Yeah, just to play a Kinect game, you have to be. And it's Juicy Loose 9. Literally everywhere.
Good. They'll tell you about the coming of Milo, or whatever that fucking weird kid's name that lived inside Kinect, or whatever he was.
Who?
Is that not his name? Isn't there a weird Kinect like kid that never actually released?
That might have just been your Kinect, Ben, and nobody else's.
Potentially. If you want to tell me that I'm wrong, I'm at Nova_47, or tell me there's definitely some kind of tech demo which was like some weird kid called Milo that was for the Kinect, and he probably was chatting to like Peter Molyneux or someone like that about, you know, life and games and shit. I don't know. Who knows these days?
He was the original NFT.
Fucking hell. We're going to have a big episode next week where we talk about all of this shit as well. But for this week, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. We've been Tanked Up. Goodbye.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net